The world of self-driving cars and advanced driver assistance tech is just moving so incredibly fast. Seems like every day there's some new breakthrough. And right in the middle of a lot of this excitement is Mobileye Global Inc. So today we're going to really dig into their latest performance and their strategy.
That's right. Yeah, we've got their Q2 2025 earnings call transcript and their latest 10Q filing right here. So it gives us a really direct look under the hood, so to speak. Financial health, strategic direction, it's all in there.
Okay, so what I really want to get a handle on using these reports is how Mobileye is actually navigating this, well, incredibly complex automotive tech world. From the safety features in cars today right through to the robo-taxis maybe coming tomorrow. What are the key things that jump out?
Yeah, the mission here is to pull out those crucial insights. We'll look at the financials, their specific approach to autonomy, and ultimately what it all means for, well, how we all get around.
All right, let's start with the foundation. How did they actually do in Q2 2025? The numbers seemed pretty solid.
Oh, absolutely solid. Mobileye's Q2 revenue hit $506 million, which is up 15% year over year. Nice growth. But what's maybe even more impressive is their adjusted operating income. That jumped 34%.
Wow, 34%.
Yeah, and the margin went up 3 points to 21%. Now, this points to really strong operating leverage. It basically means over 40% of that new revenue drops straight to operating income.
So they're getting more efficient as they grow.
Exactly. It shows scalability.
Mm-hmm.
They're converting growth into profit very effectively, which, gives them more firepower to invest in the future.
Okay, that makes sense. And the core business driving that, the ADS systems, the advanced driver assistance systems, that seems to be their powerhouse right now, particularly the EyeQ chip.
Definitely. The core ADS segment, yeah, it's humming along. Demand for the EyeQ chips is strong and consistent. I mean, look at the numbers. They've kept shipments at or above 8.5 million units per quarter for like the last year straight.
Mm-hmm.
And for the first half of 2025, about 18.1 million systems shipped. Compare that to 11.2 million in the first half of 2024.
That's a big increase.
It is. And because of that strength, they actually raised their full-year guidance. Revenue outlook up 4% and adjusted operating income up a significant 14% at the midpoint. So yeah, calling it an execution machine seems pretty fair.
Right. So if that machine is running smoothly, what's next for ADAS? Are they just cruising or are they pushing forward maybe with newer chip models?
Oh, they're definitely pushing forward.
Yeah.
The ramp-up of their new EyeQ6 Lite chip, which is meant to be the next big thing for high-volume ADAS, apparently that's gone very smoothly.
Okay.
And then there's the EyeQ6 High. That's powering their surround ADAS system. Think multiple cameras, more awareness. This is aimed at becoming the next standard for driving assist in mainstream cars.
Standard meaning?
Meaning it's designed to meet tougher safety rules coming later this decade, offer hands-free driving on highways at a reasonable cost, and importantly, it helps car makers simplify things by consolidating electronic control units, the ECUs.
Ah, so fewer boxes, potentially lower cost for the manufacturers? Yeah.
Exactly. And Mobileye is seeing more interest from OEMs, the car manufacturers, in shifting to this kind of multi-camera bundle. That lets Mobileye increase the amount of their tech and therefore revenue in each car.
So for you, the listener, this basically means the cars you buy soon will likely have much more sophisticated safety and assistance features just baked in as standard.
Pretty much, yeah. More capability, potentially without a huge price jump for those specific features.
Okay, so ADS is strong and evolving, but Mobileye is also looking further down the road, right? Supervision, chauffeur, robotaxi, these more advanced autonomous solutions. Let's break those down. What's the latest with supervision?
Right, so supervision activity, they say, is robust. But interestingly, the OEMs, the car makers, have been a bit slow on the uptake, slower than maybe expected.
Why is that?
Well, Mobileye's CEO pointed to what he called a lack of competitive pressure outside of China and outside of what Tesla's doing with full self-driving. Essentially, not enough rivals were pushing similar advanced hands-on systems to force the OEM's hands quickly. But Mobileye has started showcasing their next-gen system, the Generation 2 Supervision. They're inviting OEMs to experience it, and apparently that's generating a lot more buzz and excitement now.
So progress is happening, maybe just a bit delayed. Any specific timelines?
Yeah, they expect production to start for Porsche and Audi vehicles using Supervision towards the end of 2026. The real revenue impact from that, though, would likely hit in 2027.
Got it. Okay, moving on to chauffeur. That's their eyes off on highway system. That sounds like a pretty big deal, especially for commuting.
It really does. And that ability to actually take your eyes off the road legally and safely on the highway, that's grabbing attention. Mobileye says Chauffeur has brought in multiple new OEM prospects who see it as a game changer, letting drivers actually use that commute time.
I can definitely see the appeal there.
For sure. And they've got 4 production programs underway with the Volkswagen Group, which they see as really strategic assets. Shows they can turn the core tech into something scalable. The program with Audi for Chauffeur starting in 2027 is apparently on track. It's already passed several key homologation steps.
Homologation, that's the regulatory approval process, right? Making sure it's safe and legal for public roads.
Exactly. It's a critical, often complex hurdle. Passing those steps is a good sign.
Okay, now for the ultimate goal for many, robotaxi. Mobileye calls their system Drive. It's a super competitive field. What makes Mobileye feel confident here?
Well, first off, Waymo hitting that 25% market share in San Francisco, that seems to have really boosted confidence across the whole industry that robotaxi is viable. For Mobileye specifically, they really emphasize 2 things: safety and scalability.
Makes sense. How are they tackling safety?
Their goal is to be statistically safer than human drivers. They point to foundations they laid years ago, like their RSS model that's responsibility-sensitive safety back in 2017. And more recently, they published this framework called PGF. Think of it as a way to intelligently fuse data from all the different sensors and subsystems, making the overall system more robust and reliable.
Okay, safety is one pillar. What about scalability? That seems like the really hard part for robotaxis, going from a few test cities to everywhere.
Absolutely crucial. And they break scalability down into 3 parts. First, geographic expansion. Here, the REM mapping technology, which uses data collected from millions of cars already using Mobileye ADS, is a massive advantage for quickly mapping new areas.
Ah, leveraging their existing footprint. Smart.
Exactly. Second is cost efficiency. They achieve this through designing chips in-house, using their own advanced imaging radar, making their AI very efficient, and leveraging their existing supply chain for a test.
And the third part.
Production capacity and the business model itself. This is where their capital-light approach comes in. Instead of Mobileye having to build and operate huge fleets of robotaxis themselves, which costs a fortune.
Right, like some others have tried.
Yeah, they partner with OEMs. So the drive system gets integrated into vehicles like the VW ID Buzz during mass production. It's much more efficient, much faster to scale up without Mobileye needing billions in capital just for the cars.
So who are they partnering with specifically?
They mentioned Volkswagen, obviously, working with VW's mobility division, Moya on the ID Buzz, also Holon using their Mover shuttle platform. They already have prototypes testing, and Marubeni, which is a big Japanese fleet manager.
Okay, so they have the car partners. What about getting passengers?
For demand, they have deals with Uber and Lyft here in the U.S., and also with public transport operators over in Europe. The model seems to be selling the system itself, plus taking a cut per mile driven to recurring revenue.
Interesting. So when might we actually see these driverless Mobileye vehicles?
They're aiming to have the driver removed in a first U.S. city by mid-2026. That timing really points towards 2027 being a potentially huge year for them, a real inflection year, where revenue from both supervision and robotaxi could start to become significant.
Mid-2026. That's not that far away, really. Okay,
Yeah.
so they're pushing hard on these advanced systems, but that kind of R&D usually costs a ton of money. How are they managing the expenses?
That's a fair question. And surprisingly, despite ramping up efforts on Drive and these other advanced systems, they actually expect their operating expenses, their OpEx, to be basically flattish in the coming year.
They're flattish. How?
Well, they had pretty big jumps in OpEx in 2023 and 2024. So the argument is that the major investment needed for these new programs has largely already happened. It suggests they've hit a stride where they can keep developing without massive new spending increases. It points to pretty impressive efficiency.
Efficiency seems to be a theme. On the earnings call, I saw an analyst brought up compute power, mentioning names like Elon Musk and Jensen Huang, sort of implying you need mountains of GPUs for this AI stuff. What's Mobileye's take?
Right, that was an interesting exchange. Mobileye definitely uses compute. They spend tens of millions on both their own servers and cloud services. But their CEO, Amnon Sharia, he was clear they have a different philosophy compared to some competitors.
Different how? Just spending less.
It's more about how they use it. He stressed their ability to train the models in a way that is more efficient. They use a mix. Photorealistic simulation, which needs a lot of power, is used for really specific, rare edge cases, the unexpected stuff like a cow suddenly appearing on the highway. For training the core driving policy, how the car should behave in millions of everyday scenarios, they rely heavily on this synthetic simulator they developed called ACI Artificial community intelligence. Yeah, it can generate billions of diverse driving interactions very quickly, overnight basically, without needing super detailed graphics for every single run. This trains the decision-making part of the AI much, much more efficiently, using significantly less compute power than trying to do all that training with photorealistic simulation. It's a strategic choice about where to focus the heavy compute resources.
Fascinating. So, smart simulation is part of their efficiency secret sauce. What about the physical supply chain? We all remember the chip shortages a couple of years back. How are they positioned now?
Yeah, that was a tough period for everyone. Mobileye seems to have managed it well. They actually built up their inventory of EyeQ chips, their main SoCs, during 2023. That gave them a buffer against future shortages.
Hmm.
And crucially, they're diversifying. They've added TSMC, the big Taiwanese chip manufacturer, to make components for their new imaging radar and also for future EyeQ chips. This reduces their dependence on their longtime main supplier, SK Microelectronics.
So, less risk tied up with one supplier.
Exactly. They stated on the call that they believe their inventory is now well aligned with underlying demand. It sounds like they feel pretty comfortable with their supply situation now.
Okay, one last piece on the corporate side. Intel, their parent company, did a secondary offering of Mobileye shares recently, and Mobileye bought some back. What's the significance there?
Right. So Intel sold off a decent chunk of Mobileye shares, 50 million initially, then another 7.5 million. Mobileye itself stepped in and bought back about 6.2 million of those shares from Intel for $100 million and then just canceled them.
So Intel owns less now.
Yes, but they still own a lot. Even after all that, Intel holds roughly 79.6% of Mobileye's common stock and controls about 97.3% of the voting power. So still very much in control.
Okay.
But there's a potential financial implication. Yeah. Because Intel's ownership dropped below a certain threshold, Mobileye might be deconsolidated from Intel's U.S. tax return. They're still evaluating the exact impact, but it could potentially lead to, maybe, more financial independence or tax efficiency for Mobileye down the road. Something to watch.
All right. So pulling all this together from the earnings call and the filing, what's the big picture message you took away from Mobileye's leadership?
The message that came through really clearly, I think, was one of expanding opportunity. The leadership team basically said the potential market in front of them feels larger, broader, deeper, and more urgent now than even just a few years ago.
Urgent how?
Urgent in the sense that car makers, the OEMs, seem to have more clarity now on what they want and need. Near-term demand for ADS is strong, like we discussed, and there's this intensifying push for systems that offer both higher performance and lower cost simultaneously.
And the more advanced stuff.
Yeah, perhaps the most critical shift is that eyes-off drive, whether it's chauffeur in your personal car or a full robotaxi. It's not really seen as just a futuristic science experiment anymore.
Right. It feels like it's becoming a real achievable product.
Exactly. It's viewed now as commercially viable, something that can actually be built, certified, and sold. That's a pretty fundamental change in perspective.
So for you listening, this deep dive isn't just about one company's quarterly results. It's really a window into how fast things are moving, how AI and automation are genuinely starting to reshape transportation, maybe sooner than we thought.
Absolutely. Which leads to a final thought to maybe chew on. As this eyes-off driving and these robotaxi services become more real, more commercially viable,
Yeah.
how might that fundamentally change your daily life, your commute, your travel plans in the next, say, 5 to 10 years?
Yeah, what kinds of journeys become possible? What new efficiencies might we gain when the car can truly drive itself, even for parts of the trip?
Things that seemed impossible might become commonplace. It's definitely something to think about.